So I want to describe these currents that that Abhinavagupta talks about in the Tantra Loka. One is called the Jyeshtha, which means like the elder, right? The Jyeshtha is the elder, the one that comes before. Now the Jyeshtha current, now this is not, your linear mind is probably not going to get behind this. This is something I've had to experience myself. The Jyeshtha current, your mantra, your Hridayabeej Mantra, the mantra that's initiated to you, locates this current that is not available to you through your mind or your ego. You cannot go looking for the Jyeshtha current. You're not going to find it. But out of its vibratory nature, your Hridayabeej Mantra locates this current and it starts to draw you inward. Now we know we want to go from the stula to the sukshma to the ati sukshma to eventually the turiya states in the tantric tradition. This is beyond samadhi, or different states of samadhi, and beyond into what they call the atma vyapti and the shiva vyapti. Now, the shiva vyapti is something I understand intellectually, and I get glimpses of it, but it is where we find unity consciousness in moment by moment life. So anytime you have judgment, anytime you've had judgment during this time, anytime you've been gossiping, or what else do we do? What was that? Complaining, or, I think discernment is sometimes needed, but at the same time, whenever I'm doing that, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not there. I got work to do inside. So what the Kashmir Shaivite masters understood, the Siddha yogis, means that they were accomplished, was that we could experience moment by moment unity and peace. And so the Atma Vyapti is a state prior to that we can reach, but it does take time because we've got to clear out the stuff inside. What does Paul say? I love it because we're here at the Ganga. I can't believe we're here at the Ganga. He says, you've got to clean out the garbage in the river for the river to flow. Doesn't that make sense? Like, we're doing that physically now, right? The rivers are being cleaned up. We have to clean out the inner river. So if we don't clean out the inner river, we're not going to have the same experience out here. So if we want manifestation on any level out here, you have to go inside yourself. You have to go deep inside yourself daily. That's my little do your practices. And of course, I'm a mama. I have 2 kids. I have a business. I got a husband. If I miss, I don't beat myself up about it. I'm like, oh yeah, swaha. I'll get up tomorrow morning and do my practice. Does that make sense? So the Jyeshtha current is a very important concept to understand. The Jyeshtha current is the current that out of the vibratory nature of your Hridayabeej Mantra, that current is located. And then you go in and in and in. But guess what? Has anyone surfaced a lot in meditation? They're like, oh God, I'm not meditating. I just was on the surface the whole time. Has anyone experienced that? Yeah. Well, in this practice, we say that's normal, necessary, and good. You're meant to surface because what you're doing is you're dredging out the river. You're pulling stuff up. And a lot of times I don't know what I'm dredging up. Sometimes I hit an iceberg inside and it's a process. I'm like, wow, I feel so sad. Or, for me, it's sad. It's like the anavamala, which is this part of the ego structure that wants to be in control, is going to resist. Because when you start letting go into consciousness, into deep states, it's like dying. You're like, where am I going? Oh my God, I don't know if I'm going to go deeper. And then the anavamala goes, no. Because we get afraid. We're afraid of being annihilated. The ego doesn't want to die. But guess what? The ego has to be very humbled in this process of awakening. Very humbled taken down. That's why we call her Durga Ma or Kali Ma or Chinnamasta. Like, I find all of these energies inside my practice. I'm not calling on them in any particular way or for any particular reason. They're just arising naturally. These Hridayabeej mantras have no dictionary meaning whatsoever. I've had people I've initiated and they're like, well, can I get that one for that goddess? I'm like, it doesn't work like that. This is not about your ego. It's not about you wanting it or liking it. It's just receive it, imbibe it, take it in. And as you think the mantra and you begin to melt the mantra, which is just a gentle repetition at first where you're not pushing, that really, for me, was just a process of realizing like Jeanie was pushing my mantra. It's a difficult thing to explain. So because mantras and these Hridayabeej mantras don't have any dictionary meaning, they're just pure vibration, right? So pure vibration starts to go in as you melt the mantra inside of you. And out of its vibrational nature, it locates a current that we call the Jyeshtha current that actually takes you into the core, eventually all the way in. Ultimately, we come to recognize that the Anavamala, which is, Sally Kempton has a beautiful article. I'll try to find it and post it. It's titled, Why We Don't Realize We're God or Goddess, right? And the Anavamala is one of the major things that we talk about in the Tantric tradition. The Anavamala is how the little one doesn't remember it belongs to the ocean. The wave separates from its oceanic self. But the wave is never separate from the ocean. It just looks like it is. And we think we're separate, but we're not. And so then that leads to that basic separation, leads to the Mahiya Mala, which is why we get jealous of each other. And we compete with each other and we feel inferior to each other, is because of this basic separation. And then that leads to the karma mala, which is the mala of action. So that basic separation leads us down this path of not acting well, of feeling inferior, or not feeling like we have enough time, or feeling like we're sufficient, or effective, or worthy. The Tantric tradition talks about this feeling of unworthiness is at the heart of the Anavamala. So that's what starts to radically change inside. We're like, well, I'm going to just, stand up and do it anyway. Like I had to perform puja for my entire Sangha this summer. You should have seen what I went through. I sabotaged myself like you cannot believe. I was like, oh, no. Like Shri Para just like came inside and said, stop it. Stand up. And do this puja that you have practiced for so many years. Stop it. I was like, okay, my goodness. That's the kind of energy of the goddess.